everybody, and welcome to another edition of Be in the Know, Table Games and More. I'm your host for this, the B-Man, Benny Mancino, live and direct from the Midwest. And my guest tonight is on our new vendor series. Since G2E has went away, and we'll talk about that, is Ari Mizrachi, right? Okay.
That's perfect.
He's the Senior Vice President of Business for Tangam Systems, and we're going to talk a little bit about Tangam. I know a little bit more of what I'm going to lead on to be, but I want Ari to lay it out to me just like I was walking up to G2E and he was throwing me and he's going to tell me exactly what this product will do for me. So welcome, Ari.
Thanks for having me, Benny.
So before we get started, have you been able to travel at all? What's going on? Or did you finally get out of the cave, or what's going on in your life?
A little bit out of the cave. Well, I'm fortunate, so I live in South Jersey, about 40 miles outside of Atlantic City. With our clients, there's about 14 that I could drive to within about a 3-hour distance. So travel for me right now has been where I could get in a car. With a lot of the regulations now where quarantines of 14 days, flying just doesn't make a whole lot of sense just yet.
Yeah, so I know you got away locally there, fairly close, a few hundred miles for a trip. So that had to be. How was business? I mean, how was business? You don't have to say what property it was, but what it looked like.
You know, it was what we've read and what we, I think there's been some great interviews out there, some great articles about what the industry saw early on. And my first trip was in early June, second week of June, and the casino was packed. It was busier than I actually thought. And first few hours there was a little taken back, not sure, everybody wearing a mask, didn't know what to expect. But walked through the casino floor, slots were packed, tables were packed. Everybody looked like they were having a good time. I spent about 5 nights at this one property. Great with all the social distancing, with all the cleanliness that they needed. We had actually stayed on site, stayed at the hotel. Was very impressed with the whole operation.
Yeah, we didn't have no pent-up demand at what you'd say, because Indiana opened up about 4 or 5 days before us. So they kind of, they had that one night where they were just overrun for 3 or 4 hours. But our business has been pretty similar to what it was last summer, with the, all the things that are restricting us from being wide open, right? So we've got a limited amount of seats available on the games, and just various things that slow down business. But really, no downturn, but just kind of flat. And I know some of these other jurisdictions are a little bit more destination-y, but maybe a regional destination are really kicking. Now let's talk about, now we get to Las Vegas. They're struggling a bit. I mean, they're a pure resort destination location who depends a lot on international flights and convention business and that, and they're struggling. What do you see for them? What do you think about the future of Las Vegas over the next year?
Yeah, so listen, I think you were in an article, you had some comments about, what the future will bring. I think all of us in the industry that, see Las Vegas as a destination. I had the privilege of working in that market for 3 years. They'll ramp up, but it's going to take longer than those local or regional destinations. And I think, every day the news is a bit different. So anybody that's planning a vacation or whatnot, they may hesitate to book that trip, right? So I could only assume they're relying on a lot of drive-in business at this point. But Vegas is a special place, right? That is a place where you could get escape. When you think about people spending their discretionary dollars, that's a special place. And, whether it takes 3, 6, 9, 12 months, Vegas will be back, and will probably be back stronger than ever. You've mentioned this on some of the other interviews you gave. It gives Las Vegas an opportunity to reset, understand what its core foundation is. And I think the properties are doing a great job with that now. And that's what I've got to see so far since I've been out in the field, is that we're going back to our roots, where gambling comes first.
Yeah, I was really concerned at first, and I tried to relay the message that protection had to be job one in Las Vegas. And I my concerns were founded because a lot of people, they just didn't want to be the bad guy. It's too bad that the governor just like didn't step up to the plate right off the bat and mandate the mask. Maybe they could be in a little bit better place now. But you're right. I mean, Las Vegas is a magical place. A lot of big news this week. G2E, which is something that we all look forward to in this industry. I don't know if we look forward to it because we get to learn so much that week, or we just get to call it a timeout, and get away from our daily routine and get out and meet some friends in Las Vegas. But that's not going to happen this year. Also on Friday, the governor went back to a phase 1 approach to bars. They didn't shut the liquor off altogether in Las Vegas, thank God. But they did kind of knock out the bars. So let's talk about G2E. You would have been there. I'm walking the floor. Your company, as I understand it, your software is table games optimization. Finding all the key performance indicators and optimizing the games to their fullest level, right? And not necessarily having a human being be responsible for that. So, okay, so is it for me if I got a 12-game operation? Is it for me if I got a medium operation? Who's your software going to benefit the most?
Yeah, so it's a great question. I mean, we have clients that have 25 tables, and we have clients that have 650 tables under one roof. So we run that gamut. As you know, Benny, I come from an operations background. 4 years ago, I got the privilege to come to Tangam. But before that, I was in operations, started as a part-time dealer, worked my way up to senior director of table games and poker operations. To explain it and to give you the elevator pitch of our software, I like to think about it like this. So baseball evolved in the early 2000s, right, where data became important to make business decisions. When you think about revenue management in the hotel industry or the airline industry, that evolved, right? But prior to that, how did we make business decisions? We've used our gut feel. In table games operations, when I broke in over 20 years ago, a lot of decisions were made based on gut feel, based on walking the floor, based on experience, based on knowing, and nothing will ever replace that. But what I've also learned is about 22, 23 years ago, table management systems came out, right? Went from manual ratings to using technology to collect ratings, to do fills, credits, what have you. And the one thing that I think kind of got ignored because the main reason for those systems were not for analytics, it was for marketing, it was for accounting and what have you. There is so much valuable data that operators collect day in and day out, whether it be ratings data or occupancy data or any operational data, the prices of the games and whatnot. So if I'm an operator and I want to be the best, right? Someone like you want to be the best in your industry, why not use the tools that you're already using to take your operation to that level? So what's the argument? So when you hear about Tangam, most people think we're only sending recommendations out to the floor to either raise games, lower games, open games, or close games. And any table games operator, someone in your role is very proud, as you should be, like, well, what do I need software for? I train my staff. I pride myself on training everyone. Why would I need some technology to send prompts out to the floor? That's what I've been teaching people for the last 10, 20, 30, 40 years. Well, at the end of the day, when I always say trying to get an edge, right? Trying to get an edge on making your team even better. Why not use the data that your team is already collecting? And that's what's happening. So our software is marrying with the operational experience of your pit managers, if you want to call them that. I like to call them revenue managers. And when on the live side of our software is we're seeing things in real time that the naked eye can never see fast enough. That's the truth, right? Well, that's why we look at data. And I always think COVID-19 is a interesting time when you think about data, right? So if you're a data person, which I know you are, over the last 4 months, all you hear on the news, no matter what news channel you listen to, is we got to follow data, we got to follow the data, we got to follow data, we got to follow data. Well, I believe that in any business. If you're collecting data that is usable enough to optimize your business, why ignore it? So what our software has done and what our company has done about 10 plus years ago is make that very easy on the operators. You're already collecting it. What's always happened in our industry is, what does an operator do with it? I always say when people talk about big data, right? That's a big term now. AI, another big term. Well, when you collect a lot of big data, and you don't know what to do with it, it's like drinking out of a fire hose. So our software takes all that out. Our software collects all the, or reviews all the data that you're already collecting and gives it to an operator that's very understandable and easy to use to make better decisions. And what's great about our business is I'm the test dummy. I'm that operator that gets to look at all of our advancements in our software. And if it passes through me, it will pass through anyone.
So you make a couple good points there. Why not use the data? And if you don't know how to use the data, if you don't know how to interpret the data, now you can really get in trouble. It reminds me of Caesars in the mid-90s. They went data crazy and they created this huge, gigantic database. And they got rid of all their operational guys and went to all MBAs. And then once they collected all this data, they didn't, when it came down to it, they didn't know who was a good player and who wasn't a bad player. And they were on a mad rush to go out there and find some operational people to tell them who was the good and bad players. And I know a key thing that makes your software so valuable in almost every situation is optics. Optics and snapshots can get you in more trouble in table games than anything else. And it took me a long time to get over the pride and understand, get past the stupid to understand that. I mean, it was just the other night I had a manager come up to me and he's telling me how this game is just totally dead all the time and it's not performing. I said, do you know that game has the second highest win per hour of any game in here? And he says, you're kidding me. I said, no. I said, it's such a fun game and has such a strong house advantage. It gobbles the players up so much that when you come out here, you take a snapshot and you see nobody's there and you think the game's no good and we should move on to something else. But do I get
since it's completely off the cuff, but since you and I are kind of data geeks in this industry, do I get to guess on the game?
You can guess on the game. It's a carnival game, and it's.
So it's one of two: DJ Wild or Mississippi Stud.
It was DJ Wild. Yeah, it was DJ Wild. He was telling me how bad it was and how we had to get it off the floor. And when I showed him the data, he was just thoroughly amazed. And that's where, and a lot of our bosses, guys that you have to convince to buy your software, they're the guys that come out and take the snapshots and see this, and they don't understand that the snapshot doesn't necessarily tell you what the data will show you. And that's why your product becomes very important.
And that situation, this a certain game that financially performs really well, but operationally from the optics looks like it's dead as a doornail. And depending on who the decision maker is, the finance person might add a second table, which would be a huge mistake. The operator, if they're not looking at their financial, might get rid of that table, which potentially could be a huge mistake. And that's what our software tries to do. It actually tries to show your operational data as well. So this game isn't all that busy, but it's earning a lot of money.
So while we're talking about this, and a lot of people are going to be able to relate to this, I know you're going to guess this right. If you had to look at a game in that same category and look at the optic and say, wow, this game is awesome. It's always full. It's the greatest game in the world. And it's an absolute puke win per hour. What game would that be?
Let It Ride.
Let It Ride. I know.
But the problem is everybody's going to think this is scripted. I hope they don't.
No, it really isn't. No, we just.
But it's funny. It's a Let It Ride. I actually, and I don't know if I told you my thoughts on that specific game. And I know we're talking about other vendors and games, but I think Roger would appreciate the candidness between you and I. My thoughts with Let It Ride is it's the only poker derivative that has a single, where there's only one bet that is committed to it. Right. And I think that's one of the reasons why. And I actually started writing a blog. So what was before Let It Ride? I guess it was Let It Ride and Caribbean Stud were the only two carnival games out. What did they compare it to back then? They compared it to a blackjack game that had no side bets, no progressives, had the best rules in the game. So when you look at, if say win per open hour was a KPI back then, I bet you, even though Let It Ride might not perform well compared to its cousins, the other poker derivatives, back then, even though it probably was earning $89 an hour, it was a lot more than a $10 3-2 game back then.
Yeah, it was kicking butt, you know.
So I almost feel bad for Let It Ride because we as operators are comparing it to another poker room, which we probably should. But back then, it performed really well because it was being compared to something completely different.
But getting back to the optics, if you look at Let It Ride, you're saying, oh my God, people are just attracted to that. They're attracted to that game because they can spend hours upon that game. And if they're in Las Vegas, have several drinks, enjoy the hell out of the people watching, and never spend $1. And that's why they like it. But
Pie Gal's another one, right? Pie Gal's another one where you could sit, push 24% of the time, and life is good.
So your software can actually suggest a change in game type too, can it?
Yeah, I mean, it's not automatic. So that, our software stands on 3 pillars. There's the live part of our software, which everyone talks about, those prompts going out to the floor, which I always say is your last chance to be optimal, right? So somebody like yourself is thinking strategy. You're thinking about how many games do I have on the floor? Which games do I want on the floor of those? So say you have a 100-table operation, you're deciding the 100 tables and you're deciding which games and what side bets, what progressives, all that stuff. Then you're deciding on when you're going to schedule them. And then lastly, it's the price point and those real-time recommendations. So our software does that, which is very important. I would say that's the sexy part of Tangam. But the other 2 pillars, the scheduling side, and then our diagnostic analytical tools, are just as and arguably more important than the overall package of our software.
And a person would think during this time, a limited game space and seating that, I wouldn't really need a product like yours now. But I'm telling you what, doing the math daily and trying to figure out what's working best for me right now is getting to be a chore. It's getting to be a chore. I've got to work, Ari. I don't like to work. I like to work, but I don't like to work. You get what I'm saying? So now I'm digging into the analytics 10 times as much as I used to have to. And I've got these, how corporations work. We got meetings and we got things, and we've got customer complaints to answer, and I ain't got time for all this. So I'm thinking at this point in time that a software like yours would be more helpful to the operator than ever. Am I right about that?
Yeah, I mean, listen, I'm not back in operations because I love what I do, right? I'm an operator at heart, but I love our product, and I'm on the vendor side because of the product. It's given me a platform to do what I love. But yeah, so I think I think you nailed it on the head, Benny. A lot of operators or analysts are spending a lot of time getting the data and sifting through the data and going through the noise. And I always say your time is you get paid way too much money to deal with all that, right? All you need to do is see the final output of that data to make a business decision. And in the world today, why are people still doing that? I'm not saying Tangam is the only answer, but a lot of times when you talk about analysts, right? Most of the time they're just pulling data and pulling reports. We need answers. We need insights. We need to make a decision. Do I want to add another DJ Wild or do I not? And what data are you going to show me to help make that decision? Well, and that's what our software does.
Perfect example of how the data, unless it's directed like Tangam does, can be misconstrued. So right now we've got a little bit of a labor burn in craps. Well, I was in Ohio. You were allowed 3 people on each side of the crap game. Well, on a Saturday night, my average head count was 92 people. So you do the math. I got 8 games. Even with them all open, I'm struggling, right? But now I'm only open in 6 with the possibility to seat 6 players. So I got 36 spots for 90-some players. The math don't work. So what do I got to do? I got to open up more games than what I'd normally open to try to compensate that. And then you got a labor burn, and they look at that and say, oh, wait a minute, your drop is down X amount. Your labor should drop with it. No, this is COVID-19 times, boys. Things have changed. So now your labor goes up, and they just can't understand that because it defies the laws of casino economics, that's been going on for since, you know, they first threw the stones at the bottom of Christ at the crucifixion. You know, they just, you know, but they can't get the idea that, oh my God, this don't work. And a program like yours would give a little bit more color to that. What's actually happening?
Yeah, and it would help with that. I mean, you're laying down what I think every operator in North America and frankly probably across the globe is dealing with. Coming out of COVID-19, it's obviously a scary time for everyone, including the people that own the casino, right? You know, we've been closed for 3 months with zero revenue. That's all fair. Nobody wants to own a business that's had zero revenue over the last 3 months. And we're going to open, and I'd expect you to be careful with your labor. Seems reasonable. If I'm the CFO, who I like to call CF no, because they never say yes to anything, you know, hey, Benny, you know, be careful, right? You watch the store, right? And the question is, I had 92 customers. Okay. Well, maybe we're not going to be as busy. We're going to be 20% down. Okay. Well, that's still roughly 70 people, 74 people that you need to service. And they're like, well, we only want you to open up 6 games worth of labor. I'm like, well, okay, well, that's 36 customers. There's 74 walking through the door. That needs to be presented to the person pulling those purse strings saying, well, we want you to only service 36. Well, then I'm going to have $1,500 crap games. Is that what we want as a brand? Because I could only service 36 customers when I know 74 are going to be in the building. Well, if I can't open more tables, well, the only lever that you have is price.
Right.
And for some operators, that you may have to go as high as you've ever gone because you just can't service them. And yes, to your answer is what our software does is make that very easy for every side of the conversation to see exactly what you're trying to do. Because I feel for you. Anyone that's in the operator shoes, and frankly, anyone that's in the finance shoes, like at the end of the day, what are we trying to do? We're trying to service guests. We're trying to offer the right games at the right prices at the right time.
And that's the area we're getting into, the, you know, the service of the guest. You know, I can jack the prices up, and I can fill the spots with, you know, $25 crab games. $25 crab games is a serious number. I had 6 of them last night. I didn't have 6 $25 crab games when I was out in Vegas. It just don't happen. I had 6 last night going full bore, and I still, you know, left a lot of people on the sidelines. It's just amazing. So it's the Tangam, 9 countries.
9 countries.
6,000 units or something like that. You have?
Yeah, we just passed 7,000. Just passed 7,000. Yeah.
7,000 units. And I mean, it's all over. It's Macau, it's Singapore, all these exotic places. And they got numbers that just baffle the mind, right? 600 games, 400 games, 500 games. There's no way somebody's going to come over there and, hey, move them limits up. They got to get the message. Somebody's got to do it for them, right? And man, what a benefit! What a benefit! I couldn't imagine running an operation like that. But you know, now in this, even with my, I guess to compare to that is a tiny 90 some or 80 some 84 games count now. I can see the value. It's just unbelievable the time that I'm spending trying to analyze what's going on now. And I've seen the data you produce from your system that would cut that time probably by 2/3. So, you know, kudos to Tangam. And you know what? Kudos to Tangam for giving back. Over this incarceration that we faced a few months ago, you guys had several killer webinars and give back. Of course, I was on one of them. But anyway, it was great stuff. It was fantastic. You know what? It was free. It was free. No, you guys didn't want nothing from anybody, but just to kind of give them a clue about levers that you've seen work. And no doubt they work. It was free. You know, you give out 100, 200, 300,000, maybe 1 million in some casinos worth of information for free. And you know, hats off to your organization for sponsoring that, Aria, and you know, with the gaming community and at least table games operation specifically, really owe you a debt of gratitude for that.
We appreciate. I mean, we appreciate it. For us, it was a brainstorm of reading the news, seeing everybody's on Zoom meetings. And, we were talking internally about having some of these meetings with our clients. And kind of the thought was, what we started doing as a company is, because we're all remote now, obviously, or at least back then, we started having these like open hours. Like, I'm going to leave the Zoom open and I'm going to work, and maybe some of my the folks that work with me could see what I'm doing and ask questions along the way. And that's where that idea said, well, you know what? Why don't we just do something for the world, right? We work on table games optimization. Let's have a webinar. Let's talk about the stuff we love. Let's share our experiences across those 9 countries. And if somebody just gets something out of it, it's great. And we were very fortunate. We got a lot of great feedback. And we weren't looking for anything. We weren't trying to make any money off of it. It was work that we were doing anyway, and it was really nice to share it with everyone.
So right now, you guys are giving back again. I see on your website that you guys are giving away a free data analysis. You can take a data jump, and you're going to analyze it, and you're going to do all that for free up front. And then if you guys want the product, take it. If not, is that how it works?
Absolutely, no strings attached. And I think people, that's actually been the case for us since I've come on board. When we engage with a potential client, but in this, I said, you know what, instead of going through the process of getting a meter, let's just throw it out to the world. Our team is very efficient. Back in Canada, back in our office, we have a team of very, very smart, sophisticated folks that take that raw data that we would collect from you guys. We package it into our software as if you used it during that period of time. And then we come back with free analyses. We'll help you on what your game mix, what hours, what pricing, and all those things, and help you with either post-COVID or at this point, maybe you're open a couple of months after COVID. We'll show you that, and there is absolutely no cost. Of course, the hope is long-term, you see the software, you see it's in action, you appreciate the transparency and the granularity of the data that we're able to present to you, and then maybe long-term you could work with us, but no strings attached. There's absolutely no cost.
So you're like Geico. If you can't give a better price, you'll tell me where to get it or whatever. That's basically
the only negative is that I do the I present the analysis to you, so you get to see me again. But yeah, there's no strings attached.
Well, it's never a bad thing to meet up with you, and you're a wealth of knowledge, Ari, and we've really become really good friends over this time. Even before, for the last few years, we seem to bump into each other everywhere we go, and we start talking, and then the biggest problem is separating and not being able to, move on, do what we're doing wherever we're at.
That's right.
Well, all right, I want to thank you so much for taking the time to be the first of the vendor series. I would recommend everybody out there. I mean, you've got nothing to lose. You got nothing but time. Some of you haven't opened. Some of you haven't opened out there. And you know what? This is a perfect time. You've got the data just sitting there from your previous operation pre-COVID. Take a look at it. Were you doing the right things then and there? What's it going to hurt? So I would recommend, you giving Ari a call. Do you have to call a Canadian number? You guys got a U.S.
Yeah, I'm in South Jersey. Yeah.
Okay, no hoser, or you don't have to learn no Canadian terms. That's a joke. I don't want no hate mail from the Canadians. Although I don't know if they'll ever open up. I don't know is Canada ever going to open up, Ari?
No, they're a lot of the properties we are installed at few. I can't name names, but they all have dates, tentative dates in mind. Some of the Western action is opened, but some of these casinos are owned by the government, so obviously they're going to take a bit more conservative approach to reopening. But there are dates, and I would say probably before this month is over, you'll see properties open.
Yeah, there's so many places that were just on the cut, and I'm so glad we got open, because once you get open, it's a little harder to close unless just COVID-geddon hits. But some of the places weren't as lucky as we were and didn't get open, and they're struggling to get past, because it's really hard for a government regulator to say, hey, let's open up. We had more cases last week than we've had in all during this time, right? So it's kind of hard. Even the Florida properties, the cases are rampant, but nobody's talking about closing down there right now. So you know, it worked out. And, you know, thank God the death rate hasn't gotten crazy. And, man, I hope the next time we have this conversation that it's over and we've got a vaccine and life's back to normal. We're out G2E 2021 and life's good with the world. So Ari, I want to thank you again for stopping by. Everybody, give Ari a call. Check out Tangam. Great company, great products, and just a good organization. So thank you for being here. And everybody, just remember, be in the know.